Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to my little YouTube channel here. Today I want to get started on that. I'm going to tear that down today. Shouldn't take that long actually. Just a matter of taking the tarp or the plastic down, cutting loose the PVC pipe and stuff from hanging up there. But want to get started on building a new paint booth. I want to make one that's movable and collapsible. So when I need it, I can expand it, as big as I need to. Basically, then when I'm done, fold it up, move it out of the way. So one thing is I have to get a welder that'll do aluminum, because I want to build it out of aluminum framing. But it's going to be kind of similar, where it's just going to be poly or plastic hanging up. But kind of seen a few designs online that I really like and I think will work. Kind of put it on, I don't know if I'll put it on wheels yet or not, but it should actually be fairly nice if I do it right. So today, right now, we're gonna get started on tearing this down, and then we'll end up having to get a welder and aluminum and be able to start building it. So stay tuned and see how this thing goes. Great, so the old paint booth tore down. We're gonna get started on the new one. I got a little time while I'm waiting for the transmission to be rebuilt on the truck. And but I've changed the plans a little bit on the paint booth. Originally wanted to go with aluminum square tubing, kind of make it real nice, weld it all together and everything. I even kind of looked into, you can find extruded aluminum, and then you can buy like the corners, the 90-degree corners or the adapters, just to snap it together, basically like a Lego set or something. But after looking into that, it's quite a bit of money, so I don't want to spend that much, so I'm going to go with PVC. The old one was made out of PVC, but it was stationary. It was 1.5 inch tube pipe, and it worked fine. It was strong enough to hold the plastic up and everything, but the new one I want to make movable and collapsible a little bit, so it's not in the way or always up. And so I think 1.5 inch will still be fine. We'll get into that design here shortly. I'll show it to you. But it's going to be a little bit bigger, a little bit longer. I should say a little bit wider and longer. Height is going to be the same, but I do want to be able to get like a full-size pickup in there. So I got to have room on top to be able to spray, top of the cab if I have to, and also long enough for a truck or something like that. Most of my vehicles are kind of short and small, so they would all fit anyway. But this one I would be able to extend it to whatever size I kind of need it, and it should be okay. But I'm not sure if I'm going to put wheels on it or not. To move it around, we'll see how that works out. I might just put it all on casters and then it rolls real nice or something. But we'll get into that. We'll get started. Just got to start cutting pipe and kind of putting it together. So tops. But this is basically what I plan on doing here. I believe it's 24 feet long by 12, and you can kind of see along the top there, it's got kind of the ladder bars, and on one end I'm gonna make those a little bit bigger, a little bit taller, I guess, and that's where I'm gonna put my filters, because I wanna make this kind of a downdraft booth, somewhat similar to my last one. I had filters in the front, and then in the back I had a fan going out. So this one I'm actually gonna put filters along the top here, and then in the back I'll have the fan on the bottom and just going out. So the way I did it last time too, it worked. I just have I lift the door just a little bit, and then I put a couple of boards across the bottom, and then in the center is a window fan. Actually I can show you here quick. That's one of the boards there. And I just have one of these cheap little window fans that you put in a house. It can either push air out or push air in, or both. One fan will spin one way, one fan will spin the other. And I just slide it under the door, shut the door, and then I have just a short little tube that runs into the paint booth, and then the little window there. But so this is what, whoops. Ultimately it's going to look like, and then I'll just have plastic over the top of it. So I'm starting with these pieces here. These are all 22 inches in length, and basically this will be across the very top, and then there'll be another row of 6 like this across just below it. But in between each pipe I'm going to have a T-fitting, and then on the ends it's going to be, the very end it's going to be just an elbow. So just a matter of kind of sticking all these together, and then we'll get to the bottom row here and start putting that together. All right, I got the top here assembled, and I got one leg on. I'm running short of pipe already, but I gotta pick up some more. But you can see I basically have 5 little uprights in here, and it should be fairly strong that way. Like I said, I don't know if I'm gonna have to put a 45 right here. We'll see once I get it more assembled and just see once they're up standing on their own. But otherwise, it's basically 12 feet from the center of this pipe over to the center of that leg. So 12 feet wide, going to be basically 20'4" long when it's all assembled and stretched out. I'm probably going to end up having to put some screws just in these here, being I'm not gluing these together. This way, if they kind of start to pull apart right here, if I'm hanging something on this bottom rail, that way it won't pull down. I mean, it's only going to go so far because this will kind of keep it from sagging too much. But just to be safe, I want that nice and snug, tight right there. So I'll probably just run a self-tapper or something through both sides on each one here. Otherwise, I'm not going to do it on the ends here, just here where it can pull down. But I like it so far, and we'll get another leg on that side. I'm going to be putting these fairly, what are these, a 3-inch caster on the bottom of each leg. I got to get some caps that are going on the end of there, and then I'll just drill a hole in the bottom of the cap, and then that's where that caster will go on the bottom. And I should have room for adjustment if I want to move it up or down, depending on where it's sitting. Or I want to adjust the height just a little bit. So otherwise, I think it's coming out all right. All right, got a couple of them made so far. Actually, I already decided to change up my design here a little bit. I made the first one here with the casters on it. When I tried to kind of stand it up and just see how it sat underneath inside the garage here, I realized that this, with the wheel on there, it's going to want to move all over. And being this leg isn't necessarily got the most support on it, because it can flex one way or the other, being PVC and everything, that wheel isn't going to stop it from wandering around if it's standing straight up. So even if you have it dead straight up and down, that wheel might make it want to move around. So I decided just to go straight down and take, it's an extra 4 inches here, so, and just cap it. So now this is sitting on the ground. It's got friction, so it shouldn't move. And I should still be able to move this thing around even without the wheel, because it should be light enough where I can maneuver it. But if for some reason I do decide to put casters back on it, I'll just cut that leg a little shorter and use that same cap and just put wheels on it. But for now, I'm going to try it without it, make the rest like that, and I think that's actually going to work out better than having the casters on there, just because it's not going to want to sit there and wander around on the bottom. So we'll keep making some more here, but I'm going to try and figure out the linkage along the side here that'll hold these together. and with this one, but otherwise we're gonna just keep making these and adding to it. You can see I've got 3 of them made up now. These things are quite the handful to deal with by myself, being they're so tall and so long. So I just got them hanging up on the track of the door here, but until they get attached, they're just a pain to deal with. So, but here's my setup as far as the linkage between them. I cut these to 5 foot long. They're just 1-inch aluminum by 1/8. And on top, you can see I have a collar that slides. So the bottom is attached, and then the top slides up and down. That's just a 2-inch PVC up there. It's got quite a bit of play, but I'll show you here in a second. But the bolt that goes through it, it kind of takes up some of that slack a little bit, but it slides pretty good. And I'll show you here once this is expanded too. But I think that's going to be pretty stable setup there, a linkage. I had tried actually a different setup here as far as the linkage goes, and when you stand just 2 of them and spread it out, it's so wobbly and wouldn't stand up without actually like maybe attaching it to the wall or something like that. If one of them would have been attached to the wall or stable, the rest of them would have been stable. But this way, being an X, it can't tip one way or the other, so that's way more stable that way, so I switched it to that. But this is what I'm doing with the collar. Basically, it's just a little 4-inch length, 2-inch tubing, but I've got a machine screw going through it. Kind of drill the hole so I can access it from the backside to tighten it up. I'm using locking nuts because otherwise when you put the linkage on there and then the other nut, it's probably going to want to spin. It's kind of the best setup I could think of without getting real expensive and real fancy with it, or going metal or something like that, but they do seem to slide pretty good. Just have to kind of make a bunch of them, but yeah, it's once you get the head of that on there, let me get this. So that's the 1.5-inch pipe there, and the head of that bolt kind of takes up that gap there and slides pretty good. So, and when you make these X braces here, you want to make sure that they're the same length, basically. So, being these are 5 feet long, you know, I just measured right in the middle, drilled the hole, and then kind of about 1/2 inch from each end here, I drilled the holes. But you want them to be the same, because if they're off just a little bit, everything is going to want to not line up perfectly. So just make sure that the screws or the holes are all the same as far as these 2 on this side and those 2 on that side. Basically, I just put them all together and drilled through all of them at the same time, just to make sure that they're the same. Now the next pair that I will do, I'll make sure that all 4 of those are drilled the same, and so on and so on. So that way they open and close the same way. All right, you can see I got the first 3 sitting on the ground. I'll show you quick how I can spread it out and put it back together. So, pretty stable too. It rocks. Will it take a nuclear attack? No, but it's fairly stable. As far as front to back, it's not going anywhere. And then just to close it up, I do have some stops right here, so when they come down, they stop. Otherwise they're just going to keep falling down those slides, so I just have them at a certain height all along the way. When I make my measurements, I measure from the ground up for where my anchor points are going to be on all that. And this side's the same way, you know. I have my stops right there on each one. And though, like I originally said, I was going to go with casters on all of them. The ones there, the 3-inch, man, it rolls really nice. So if you want to do that, you sure can. But it is kind of nice that with just a regular cap on the end like that, it's not going to move around. Even on the wheel, you know, it moves so nice, and I don't necessarily want that. I want to kind of just have a little friction there on the bottom. So I think the caps work pretty nice. Plus they slide pretty easily too. So I'm working on the last up right now. The last one is going to be different. It's going to be a lot taller from the top row to the bottom row. It'll be the same height on top, but the bottom one will just be lower because that's where I'm going to mount filters along the top to filter out kind of dirty air, dust, or whatever. So I got to make that a little bit different across the top, which also means my legs are going to be a little bit shorter on the sides. But this is, I'll show you here, this is what the side will be. So it's a little bit different. As you can see, it's quite a bit longer. It's about 12 inches basically from the center of the top to the center of the bottom. But the issue I'm running into is, you can see this is where the bottom of it is going to come, that little mark there. So kind of screwed up there when I did that. Being these are spread out a little bit, they're not all the way raised up. When I collapse this some more, push this all together, this will come up a little bit and it'll basically hit the bottom here. So I could, and I probably should, take the bottoms here, lower them all down maybe a couple inches or whatever to get everything just to lower down, and then it wouldn't hit the bottom here. I'm kind of saying screw that. Just so I don't have to just to move all that stuff down. What I'll end up doing, I may shave a little bit off the bottom of this T-fitting here, but otherwise what I'm doing is I'm going to trim this off a little bit. Not on this one, but the next one here. So these are 4 inches long, and then I'm just drilling this hole in the center of it. So right at the 2-inch mark. What I'll end up doing is I'll still take a 4-inch one, drill the center, but then just take an inch off the top, and I think that'll give me enough there to be able to slide it all the way up. You can see I already got this one cut down here. So took that much off. I'm hoping that's going to take care of it. Like I said, I might try and trim this a little bit, but I do want as much here just for stability on the pipe, on the leg, I guess. So I got the legs cut to the right length that I think they're going to need to be because they're a little bit shorter this way, but we'll get that top made, get all this stuff done here and test it out. But I think I got my measurements correct, and then we'll get those filters mounted across the top too. But that's the only thing with this last one. Obviously, if you're doing whatever size you're building, you may not run into this, but just a heads up that you got to think of that when it's going up. But my whole goal was to try and keep those X braces pretty much in the center of the legs, so when it's spread all out, that it's still got stability. I don't want them necessarily all the way at the bottom or all the way towards the top. Try to get them as centered as possible. So if they're spread out, they're nice and centered. But yeah, when it's all collapsed, and then they get close to the top there on this last one. So this is what the top row on this last one is going to look like. You can see I got the PVC put together, and then I got 3 filters in here. Now I'm going to have to put another 3 there, but basically I just have 3/4 inch J channel, vinyl J channel, used for like siding and stuff like that. It's actually the inside, it's a really snug fit, but this is a 12 inch by 24 inch by 1 inch furnace filter, and it's actually 3/4 thick. So that's basically what the gap is here. It spreads it just a little bit, but it's a real nice snug. But yeah, they just slide in and out of here. And so it should be sealed along the bottom edge. So far, they're nice and tight here. If I really want to get serious, I can put tape in between each one so they're not leaking. But then I'll put another 3 of them in there, and they'll all slide in from one end. I suppose you could slide them in from either end where you want, but I wanted this end to be sealed up too, as best as possible. So I just put a little piece across there. So that's what it'll look like. We'll get this together, we'll get it up on the legs and finish installing it with the rest of them. And then we'll have at least the skeleton up. Got everything assembled now, and that's what it is. That's what it looks like when it's all collapsed. I did end up moving all these linkages down, maybe an inch and a half, inch and 3/4, something like that. Just quite didn't have enough room up there. It was jamming. So to collapse it all the way like it is now, I had to move everything down. It was kind of a pain, but it had to be done. So I may end up adding a couple wheels, not all of them, but just 1 or 2 wheels on each side, so it rolls a little bit nicer. But this is pretty tight, I guess. I should be able to either push it up against that wall or push it up towards the door and be able to drive in and out. Now, once the plastic's on it, it's going to be a little bit bulkier, but it still shouldn't be too bad. I'm not going to put real thick plastic on there, but I think that works pretty good. Still have to get 3 more filters up there. But yeah, as far as for being collapsible and being able to pull it out when I want to, I think that'll work nice. Here's with it fully extended out to 24 feet, or just shy of 24 feet. So I'll extend it out like this, put all the poly on it. I'll probably screw it in a few spots, tape it, whatever, so it's all done, but should be able to put poly over the top and then just collapse it. And then I just got to work on the ends. So I'm going to put curtains, kind of sliding curtains. So one will come from one side, one will come from the other side, and they'll overlap a little bit. And then I'll be able to just go in and, open them up and drive stuff in and out if I want. So I've got the plastic mounted on the outside frame now. I went with 3 mil poly. You can go heavier if you want, but it really doesn't need to be that heavy unless you want it to be a little more durable. This stuff can kind of rip easy if you're not careful. But basically taped it in some spots, zip tied it in others. It was kind of tough in the kind of up in the 2 middle ones to get to the top, just because there's no room to really get up on the top and tape it or screw it down or zip tie it, because you need to get from both sides. So it's mainly just kind of loose on top, except for in the middle. And I basically put, because the poly is 12 feet wide, I just went from one side all the way up and over and down. So there's 2 pieces, one in the front, one in the back now. So I got that mounted up, and we'll show you a picture of when it's all extended. Right now I'm working on the ends here where the curtains are going to be, or the end of the front and the back, I guess you call it. What I'm trying to do now is actually get this is just some curtain rails that I bought, some curtain track I should say, and basically just zip tying it on here. There are brackets, but they're made to be on something flat. So I'm just zip tying it, basically just drilled some holes in the track itself and zip tying it. But what I'm going to do is actually have the door kind of in the middle here, but I'm going to overlap it. So the curtain track was 16 feet long, so being this is 12 feet here, I'm just going to overlap it in the middle here, and then the 2 curtains will overlap enough where it should seal pretty good. Once you get a fan on here and you're kind of sucking air out or blowing air out, a lot of this plastic will seal itself. So wherever there might be a joint or a little bit of a gap, the plastic will kind of suck it all into the inside and try to go out that fan, so it seals it up. So this should work fine, but right now you can kind of see I got this one loosely up here. But what I'm going to have to do, so these rollers clear where they overlap, one's kind of pointed this way, one's kind of pointed that way a little bit. So I'll finish doing that. We'll hang a curtain on here, see how it looks, and then we'll be able to do the other side the same way. All right, got the curtains up on this side. See, you just pull her open. They had these little hooks in there for regular curtain. I put a little piece of tape on each one just to kind of reinforce it a little bit, just so it doesn't pull through there, but goes about 3/4 of the way across, and then the other one will pull to about here or so. And I even have it so there's a little, I can take it off that roller there and actually hook it on the very end. That way it doesn't pull back. And then when I want to move it, I just hook it back on there. All the way back. And then the plastic can be tied up, kind of off to the side. You can kind of see I have it overlapping there, split, so there's enough room for the rollers to go through here and not collide and get stuck or get hung up there. But I think that'll work pretty good. I still might have to put just a little piece here, overlap, that hangs over this. I try to put the plastic up high enough so it's covering up here, but it just kind of folds over. There's no support there. I almost thought about putting tape all the way across the top of this just for support, and then it would stay up. But then when you want to try and push it together like this, it's not going to bunch up nice. So that's why I went with individual pieces. So I might just tape a little piece that just hangs down, maybe a 6-inch piece or something like that for that gap. And it's not a huge deal, but I don't want any big gaps necessarily in there. So now I just got to make one for this side, which will basically be the exact same thing, except on the bottom down here I'll have to, I don't know if I'm going to cut a hole or what I'm going to exactly do, or just leave it where the overlap is, because I'll need a vent going out the bottom of the door here. So I'll probably end up just leaving it, and then I can just kind of fold it over the top of my fan and vent, and it should work pretty good. So I'll show that to you when I'm all done with that side. All right, the paint booth is fully assembled now. This is fully extended here. Show you how it all turned out. We got our curtains on this end. Kind of got them tied back right now, but basically she's got plenty of room, plenty of length in here to get a full-size pickup. Or I am going to be working on a trailer in here. I got to repaint a trailer, so there's going to be a lot of dust and paint and everything else in here. So this will come in very handy once I get started on that project. But you can see I got the curtains, overlapping curtains on that end, so I can slide them to the side, drive whatever I need in here, and close them back up. You know, I'll have the vent down on the bottom there. That'll work. I may end up putting lights in here, maybe towards the middle here. There is enough light that shines in here to see fine, but I may add some extra lights in here just in case. One word of advice, I guess, with that is just make sure that it's not a fire hazard, because if you're in here spraying solvents and paint and everything else, that could be very flammable. So make sure it has no chance of creating a spark, otherwise you might go boom. But I think it turned out good. You can see the filters are up there, so once everything's closed in the vent, it should be drawing all the air in from there and going right out through the fan on the bottom there. So basically, once, depending on how you would want to do it, what I usually do is I'll put plastic on the concrete and cover this whole floor up, just so it's not staining the floor and you don't have a big area here where it's all paint and then the rest of it's nice. So, but that's just a matter of laying some plastic down, bring whatever you need to in here, and it should work good. So, but I'm happy with the turnout. Is it perfect and fancy? Then maybe not. I'd let you be the judge of that, I guess. But for what I'm going to use it for, this will be perfect. And once it's all collapsed, I can either push it straight back towards the door, I can push it up against the wall, and it's not really going to take that much room. All I have to do then is, once it's all collapsed, I can just kind of tie up all the plastic nice and tight to the legs, and we should be good. So, but otherwise, like I said, guys, I'm really happy with the way this thing turned out. So if you're looking for a little different idea for a paint booth, this isn't a bad thing to try if you want. I'm going to make good use of this. You know, it's just another way of making a nice paint booth if you want to have something that does collapse and you can reuse it, move it around, rather than building a stationary one that you have to reassemble and assemble all the time. Here it just opens up to whatever size you need, collapses, and you can put it off to the side. So I appreciate you guys watching. Like, share, comment, all that good stuff, and we'll see you next time. All right, thank you.